So recently I rewatched Illumination's The Lorax on Netflix and thought to myself, hey, maybe there's a Lorax iceberg out there somewhere. You know, as a normal person does. And so I looked it up and there actually is a Lorax iceberg. But nobody's ever made it a YouTube video. So of course, me and my friend, being the geniuses that we are, decided to make this into an actual thing and upload it to YouTube. You know, as normal people do. And trust me when I say this, it goes deep and is so much more disturbing than anyone could ever imagine. Seriously, guys, it can range from real-life murder to doxing and lies. Now, before we start, I'm not reading this shit.
Before we start this iceberg, though, YouTube analytics show us that only 30% of our viewers are actually subscribed. So this is your reminder to subscribe, because at 100 subscribers, Cameron will do a foot reveal. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into the disturbing Lorax iceberg.
Welcome to the Mind of Seaborgium.
Onceler is Ted's grandfather. In the movie, Ted is the main hero of Thneedville in the modern world. And obviously the Onceler is the reason why Thneedville doesn't have any real trees, any real oxygen, or anything like that. So this theory states that the Onceler is Ted's grandfather. There's no real evidence for this in the movie, but they do have pretty similar features. Perhaps this is supposed to represent something potentially deeper. Can you think of what it might be? Yes, of course. Generational struggle. Norma and Onceler have met each other. This theory states, well, that Norma and the Onceler have met each other in the past. There's not really a whole lot to say here because just like the last one, there's absolutely no evidence for this anywhere in the movie. But who knows, maybe there is a hidden subliminal message in the movie that may prove this theory true. Or wrong, who fucking knows. O'Hare knew the Onceler. Now this theory goes deep. Obviously, this theory states that O'Hare knew the Onceler at one point, and this is indeed true. In the Vietnam War, O'Hare was working as a medic, and the Onceler was shot in the shoulder. Eventually, through the recovery process, the Onceler and O'Hare became very great friends, but never saw each other again. Perhaps O'Hare's point of view on trees and natural life come from his broken, fractured mind during the war, and how the Onceler can manipulate people very easily. But wait. He can manipulate time and money. Well, okay, you know what? That's all a joke, but, you know, there is a scene in the movie where O'Hare is there and working for the Onceler.
Deleted songs. There are many songs of the Lorax that were deleted from the final cut, the most popular of which being the song Biggering. This song was originally meant to be played during the How Bad Can I Be sequence. And I'm gonna be honest, it's so much better than what we actually got. But sadly, it was cut out of the film for being too dark. You can find the storyboard on YouTube along with the song, and we'll get back to the storyboards here in a minute, later on in the iceberg. So, along with Biggering, you also have the original demo to the Thneedville opening, which I'm very glad was cut out because it sounds like ass. I love nature, you need a Thneed. Nobody needs a Thneed, and celebrate the world. The Onceler turned to Greenville into Thneedville. So in the Onceler's origin story, when he makes the first Thneed, he goes to a town called Greenville, which happens to be the only town we see in this movie other than Thneedville, and Greenville is never mentioned after this. And in one scene where the Onceler tries to sell his Thneed, you can see him standing in a gazebo, which seems to appear later on in the movie, implying that the Onceler biggered too hard and turned the town of Greenville into his own anarcho-capitalist dictatorship with himself at the top.
Oncest. Now, if you're like me, looking at this iceberg for the first time, you're probably looking or hearing oncest and thinking, what the fuck is oncest? Well, to put it simply, it is self-cest with the Onceler fucking himself. Now, why would anyone do this? It's quite simple, but still weird. Basically, there's nobody in the movie to ship the Onceler with, so these people on Tumblr ship him with himself. Yeah, I don't understand this either, but I mean, cool, I guess. Unfortunately, we'll talk about this more later on the Iceberg. The Onceler didn't tell Ted how it all really happened. This theory is about how the Onceler didn't tell Ted about the whole entire true backstory behind his rise to power. The only proof of this being true is the fact that Ted is literally 12-year-old, so maybe the Onceler thought this story would be too scary for Ted. But this doesn't make any fucking sense, because the Onceler is telling Ted this story from an abandoned, boarded up house in the middle of a desolate dead land with no trees around it, and also a machine grabbed Ted and flung him up in the air and nearly fucking killed him. But I mean, whatever, go ahead and preach, based God.
Natshima's bickering storyboards. I mentioned this earlier in the Iceberg when I talked about the deleted songs, but you can look up the storyboard to the deleted song bickering on YouTube. It's just 100 times better than the shit we got in the final cut of the movie.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Trust me. Like I mentioned earlier, it was cut for being too dark, and this specific storyboard was made by Natshima, however you say that name. And it looks more stylish than the other storyboards. To me, it just looks like some Go Anime Gacha Life shit. Memes. I decided to add this one to the layer because this layer only had 3 entries. But back when this movie came out, a lot of memes spawned from this movie, and they still pop up every once in a while, even to this day. There's a lot of them. I could go on, but you don't really give a shit. It's stuff like the Lorax out of context. How bad can I be? But every time he says bad, the song increases by 2 times speed. Oh, and how could we forget my personal favorite, the Lorax flying away scene.
Portrait of a young Norma on the wall of the Onceler's house. In the movie, when the Onceler opens the door to water a little truffula that is growing, you can see a portrait of a woman in the background. Many people believe this to be a young Norma, and maybe that's true, but there's no reasoning behind this that we can think of at all. Maybe this could connect to the theory earlier that Onceler is Ted's grandfather, but there was never really an official explanation to this either.
Deleted scene in Greenville. This is referring to a deleted scene in which a Onceler gives up on selling his thneeds and throws one of the thneeds in the garbage. And then it ends up on a cat, which ends up in a garbage truck, which ends up as a cape for some guy on a bike who saved the cat from death, and onto a lady sitting on a bench, where it becomes popular. The only part of this sequence which made it to the final cut was the part where the Onceler throws the thneed on a girl, and people like him for it. I don't really understand why this was cut from the film. Maybe time constraints, or the animators were just lazy. But this scene feels like it fits much more into the scene we actually got in the movie. And if you really care enough, you can find it on YouTube. Just look it up. Why so animated bickering storyboard? This entry is referring to another storyboard for bickering, and just like the other one I talked about, but instead this one's slightly worse. I'm gonna be honest, it looks the exact same as the other one I mentioned, but to be honest, I like this one better because it looks more like an actual storyboard and less like fan art. The other one just looked like ass. This looks like it looks like it was thrown together by a 15-year-old in 20 minutes, but still it looks much better than that. CX-5 SUV. Probably the worst entry on this list just because of how hypocritical it is. This entry is referring to the Mazda CX SUV commercial, which honestly looks fine on the surface. Companies do this all the time where they use movies or shows to promote their products, like Loki Hyundai commercial or the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 Cocoa Puffs. And usually people don't have a problem with these, but when it's an advertisement trying to sell you something that's going to destroy the earth with CO2 emissions, butchering the entire point of the movie and the book it's based on, especially, saving the environment and the danger of greedy corporations, yeah, this probably wasn't the best idea.
Miss Wiggins knows about the Onceler. In the movie, when Norma mentions the Onceler to Ted, Mrs. Wiggins seems to want this conversation over kinda quickly. Also later on, Norma goes to tell Ted about the Onceler, and for whatever reason, she expects Miss Wiggins to leave the room. Once again, I believe this ties into the theory about Onceler being Ted's grandfather. Maybe he was and did something so terrible that she just doesn't want to talk about him at all. At that point, why would Norma want to talk about him? It doesn't make any sense. This goes way too deep. This is too much for my brain.
Voices speaking dystopian phrases at the end of How Bad Can I Be? As the song goes on, you can hear the chorus get louder and say dystopian phrases, which are drowned out by another chorus saying "save the trees," but are too quiet to hear. And that's about it. There's really not much to this one, just nice attention to detail.
Forces of Nature, Serenade at Wagon Hole. This entry refers to 3 extras on the official Lorax Blu-ray. You can find these shorts on YouTube in relatively decent quality. But me? Nah, I couldn't help myself. I drove up to Walmart, I looked in the DVD Blu-ray section and found the holy grail. I found Breaking Bad Blu-ray box set. But I also found the Lorax Blu-ray. Now, unfortunately, my camera broke when I bought it and I returned it, so I don't have any footage of me purchasing it, but you should totally believe me, guys. Onceler fanfics on AO3. No, I'm not talking about this. But if this video gets to 50 likes, we will read these fanfictions. So make sure you smash that like button. Agnes and Onceler pajamas. There's like no point to this being on here. It's just kind of about how Agnes and Onceler have similar pajamas. But Agnes' pajamas have teddy bears and Onceler's pajamas have bunnies. What an incredible, in-depth, amazing, exquisite, tremendous, outstanding, splendid, voluptuous entry on this Iceberg.
At the end of the movie, 10 years have passed. At the end of the movie, you can see how time has definitely passed as the Onceler comes outside to water some newly planted trees after the climax of the movie, where Ted plants the last truffula tree. And in the final scene, the Lorax comes back and reunites with the Onceler. That's about it. I guess it just takes place 10 years later. Let It Grow memes. I forgot to mention this earlier in the meme section, but there's a lot of memes based on this song, Let It Grow, and the O'Hare's classic, Let It Die. But it's so unimportant, old, and looking back on it, it really wasn't that funny. So, I won't talk about it other than that.
The Onceler is modeled off of Jared Fogle. So the Onceler is modeled off. Hey guys, so this entry has been taken down by Subway and Illumination. Unfortunately, we can't talk about this. We deeply apologize for this inconvenience. Sorry. Onceler fandom confessions. So this entry unironically goes kinda deep. So I found a blog on Tumblr, and it's just kind of random images with text over them related to the Lorax. Examples include, I need to drop punt kick O'Hare like a football and stuff like that. But a lot of these are legitimate confessions about people's love for the Onceler, or anything in that general area. There are some highlights in here, such as, the Onceler in pajamas is fine. Onceler should have his own show. He's a star. I forgive the Onceler for what he's done. I would smooch the Onceler on his fat... Okay, well, that's not even a confession I found. That's a joke. But there are also other things on here, like, I want to take the fat Barbaloot to a 5-course dinner, and what if the Lorax had a gun? So yeah, it's just really weird. But the thing is, I genuinely cannot tell if some of these are people genuinely confessing stuff about the Onceler and their love for him. I wanted to note this post right here too. Is there going to be 2023 confessions? Yes, sorry for the hiatus. Oncelism may hibernate, but it will never die. So, yeah, this may go on for another 10 to 20 years. Who fucking knows? We will see. But, yeah, this whole thing's kind of weird. I can't tell if it's true because there are some weird people out there. Ed Helms talking about Onecest. So remember earlier when I was talking about Onecest? Ed Helms, if you haven't heard of him, is a famous actor and voice actor, and he played the Onceler in this movie. And he is very much aware about Onecest and people's sexual attraction to the Onceler. I will just let Ed Helms do the talking.
We are live, and we're talking to the world, and we're answering your questions. I say we, I mean me, Ed Helms. I'm just sitting here, and I'm going to answer your questions via Twitter, and it's going to get real personal and weird. I might cry. I don't know what's going to happen, because already there's just some really weird questions floating in. Moving on. One cest. What is that? That is, I heard there is some sort of, there are people who have a sexual predilection for my character in the Lorax named the Onceler, and that having sex with the Onceler is referred to as one cest, and someone just tweeted that, and that is very odd, because he's not a real person. I do agree, however, that he's extremely sexy, but I don't condone sexual fantasy about the Onceler. I don't condone it. Since you worked on the Lorax, have you heard of a little thing called one cest involving your character, the Onceler? We addressed this already. It's getting very creepy. If you are, I'm going to take a moment here to address this. If you are having sexual fantasies about my character in the Lorax, a cartoon character named the Onceler, you need to tell a professional psychiatrist and relationship counselor, and then you need to go pay Universal $200 million to make a Onceler porn. Moving right along. What is your opinion on the Onceler fandom? Check it out. I don't know, and I'm getting really freaked out about this. I'm not going to check it out. I don't want to know what's going on with that. I'm all for it. Uh-oh. One cest isn't sex with the Onceler. It's Onceler on Onceler. Like twins, only they're the same person. Go get psychiatric evaluation right now. This has become a community crisis. America is in crisis right now because there is a Onceler fetish that has gone out of control. Ed, please, we are so sorry for those few people. The fans of the Lorax aren't all like that. Honestly, I don't believe you. I think you are privately fantasizing about the Onceler right now. Betty White believes Norma and the Onceler had a scandalous affair. Betty White believes Norma and the Onceler had a scandalous affair in the past. Do you? I don't know. I didn't know Betty White thought that. And I'm not going to take your word for it.
Truffula Sheffula. So adding to the butchering of the original Lorax book and movie by Dr. Seuss, this is another corporate advertisement, but in this case was a mobile game released for Android on February 1st, 2012. And as far as I can tell, it's no longer playable. And I can only find one video of a dude playing it on YouTube, crazymikesapps.com. Gameplay-wise, it's literally just Candy Crush, but with truffula trees instead of candy.
Okay, we were too lazy to make an outro script, so we used Chat GPT to make us an outro. And there you have it, folks. We've delved deep into the chilling depths of the 2012 animated film The Lorax on this icy adventure brought to you by Mind of Seaborgium. We hope you enjoyed this exploration into one of the most beloved environmental tales of our time. As we bid farewell to this captivating iceberg, let's reflect on the important messages this film conveyed. The Lorax reminds us of the vital role each of us plays in protecting our planet's precious resources. Through the colorful characters and whimsical storytelling, it inspires us to take action, just like the Onceler did when he realized the consequences of his actions. Remember, my fellow viewers, we are all custodians of the environment. Whether it's planting trees, conserving energy, or making sustainable choices, let's embody the spirit of Danny DeVito, the Lorax, and become stewards of our Earth. If you enjoyed this journey through icy depths and want to uncover more intriguing topics, make sure to subscribe to the Mind of Seaborgium and join us on our next adventure. Together, we'll continue to explore the wonders of our world and the stories that shape us. Signing off from the frosty realm of knowledge, I'm your host, and as always, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deeper.